But I do want to talk about this article from an author on Medium. Medium is turning out to be a phenomenal platform. So there was an article yesterday, the argument that was made that people who can afford to hope in unicorns and fairies and rainbows have a certain amount of privilege. That's the theme of this week, right? The privilege that people have, particularly white people pointing out privilege of other white people. We talked about that last night, but there's salty water. Sorry, folks. There's an article by Tony Brasunas. I believe that's how you pronounce his last name. But he said, please recognize your privilege if you can afford 8 years of Hillary Clinton and the status quo. And before I even talk about it, I have to give this brother a hand because he hit it on the head. Tony started outlining the same arguments that we make here on the Benjamin Dixon Show on a regular basis, but he went even further and made it so much more crystal clear, talking about if you can afford to not have the system change, then you are privileged. And I think that's the damn truth if I ever heard it in my life. If you can afford not to have the system change at all, then you are making a level of income right now that is sufficient for you. In other words, you don't need it to change because things are pretty good for you right now. And this is the case that he makes. But for people who are living on a minimum wage and they're being promised or being there's proposals out for $12 an hour from Hillary Clinton. And I like the way he puts it. He said that she's barely really even fighting for that 12. And then you have 15. That difference between $12 and $15, right? Or even someone who's going to be an advocate to even get you beyond 12. Right? The fight, the willingness to fight for it. That's the difference between being able to live based on your own efforts and your own work and being in poverty based on your own efforts and your own work. Working 40 hours a week and being able to live, or working 40 hours a week and still needing tax subsidies so that you can survive. So if you can't afford this question about the status quo, rather, that Hillary Clinton represents. And this is something that I just really want to ask Hillary Clinton supporters. Do you honestly believe that Hillary is going to change anything from the current status quo, from the current paradigm? I think anyone who's reasonable, and that's a far cry, right? That's asking too much. Anyone who is reasonable would agree that if nothing else, Hillary Clinton is going to maintain the status quo. Right now, the status quo hurts a lot of Americans, hurts more Americans than it helps. There are more people who are living, but people living below the poverty line, people living paycheck to paycheck, people just making ends meet. So if you can afford to not have, and then he went to another category, right? He went to another category of young people graduating high school, getting ready to go to college. If you can afford to not need free college tuition, and you just would rather, all you need is just a lower interest rate on your loans, then you are in an economically privileged position. And so recognize that privilege. And so all week they've been trying to make particularly white people recognize their privilege because they have they dare to dream, as though daring to dream for a better America is somehow some type of fanciful flight of fancy. I mean, at what point did we mistake pragmatism for a virtue in the face of optimism? And I want to say that very specifically for that, again, at what point did we exchange pragmatism as a virtue above and beyond optimism? Yeah, so that's the thing. All right, so Nick has joined us in the room. Nick, do me a favor and turn down your the channel that you're listening on. Noah will be joining us shortly. But that's the thing, right? So we're in this phase where people are saying, "Oh, we're pragmatic, therefore we are the responsible adults, and we don't expect anything to change." Right? We've also distorted what it means to be pragmatic. Pragmatic does not mean let's just accept the way things are. Pragmatic means there's something wrong. Let's make a practical plan to fix it. What Hillary Clinton supporters have decided is we don't even want to make hopeful plans. We don't even want to make a plan to change this paradigm. We're actually okay with this paradigm. And all of you Bernie Sanders supporters, or all you progressives and all you left-leaning people, you just want this utopia. And that's the problem. That's the crux of the problem. Number one, according to Tony, if you can afford to not hope for something more or work and want something more, then yes, that is a privilege, right? Number one. Number two, dismissing the optimism and the willingness to fight for something more as being fanciful flights of unicorns utopia, in exchange for a pragmatism that you've distorted to mean I don't want to do anything because it's going to be too hard. I don't want to do anything because it's going to be too difficult. I don't want to do anything because it's too radical to do anything more than what we're normally doing. That has been cast as a virtue. And that's one of the number one things that has been revealed. The third thing, and I'll say this, I'm just going to tie this into the bigger thing I wanted to talk about, and then we'll get the guys and the gals online. The thing that jumps out the most, though, is that this election has exposed the difference in our ideologies. I honestly believe, and people are not going to like me when I say this, or you guys, whatever. We have some irreconcilable differences. Whatever. We have some differences between us.
Irreconcilable.
I thought it was irreconcilable. I don't know why now I'm saying it doesn't feel like it's the right word, or I'm saying it correctly. But irreconcilable differences between progressives and the establishment. Because once the establishment starts labeling everything that we're doing and everything we're fighting for as not just a utopia, but as a communist utopia or some type of socialist Bolshevik revolution, and they're dismissing it as bad fiscal policy, then at some point you have to realize we just are fundamentally different people, that we just disagree on things too much to actually work together. That is what they're doing now. That's what I'm seeing more and more and more. Now, Hillary Clinton is actually shrewd enough to not publicly make that argument. Her followers are not. Her followers are not bright enough. Her followers, in order to justify Hillary Clinton over Bernie Sanders, her followers have gone over into attacking Bernie Sanders as a communist, as a socialist, not a democratic socialist, but a socialist in the vein of a Hugo Chavez, right? So they have turned on progressive principles in order to support Hillary Clinton, and they're out here touting right-leaning talking points, right-leaning perspectives, right-leaning economics, damn near trickle-down economics, and they think that this is a virtue, and they think this is pragmatic, and they still think that they're progressives. Little do they know they are anything but. And I think this is a turning point in the election. This is a turning point, not in the election so much as a turning point in the political land of America, the political landscape of America, where you are going to start seeing Hillary Clinton supporters, Hillary Clinton blue dog Democrats align more with Republicans, because Republicans are running away from Donald Trump. I've been saying this this summer. Republicans running away from Donald Trump are coming to Hillary Clinton, and Hillary Clinton supporters running away, not even running away from Bernie Sanders, but doing everything they can to help Hillary Clinton. They're running away from the left, and they're merging with with Hillary Clinton, and they're meeting Republicans in this right-leaning. They want to call it moderate. It's not moderate. It's center-right, just right of moderate, of center. And now there's a new political coalition being formed right before our eyes, by virtue of Donald Trump's timing and by virtue of Hillary Clinton wanting this ascension to the throne timing. I'm not going to blame it on Bernie Sanders. They would have done this to Elizabeth Warren. They would have done this to anybody else. They would have done this to Martin O'Malley if he was in second place. They would have done everything they could to run as far away from anyone in order to support Hillary Clinton. And the net result is Hillary Clinton Democrats and Republicans running away from Donald Trump are going to form a new alliance. Now, whether they go underneath the Democratic Party banner or not, I don't know. But you see it happening now. You see Republicans talking about coming over, and the only person they can imagine supporting is Hillary Clinton.